Did you know that confidence stems from the word fidere, which means to trust? So having self-confidence is having trust in oneself. That's it. That's the key to being confident. Simply believing and trusting that you can do whatever you set out to achieve. Of course, it's easier said than done, but if only it were that simple. I know it's not that simple, but believe me, focus on it, you're going to get it, and it gets easier and easier over time. For many of us, confidence is an ephemeral, oh gosh, quality. Who knew that word was coming up? 1 minute you've got it, and the next you definitely don't. But thankfully, we have two people with us tonight who are going to show us how to summon confidence, even when it seems impossible, and how to get it back when it's so very much gone. So please put your hands together for comedic actor Brice Griffin and Emmy Award-winning host Jeannie Mai.
Hi,
Thanks for the
hey
warm
Brice, how are you?
welcome. Hi, how you doing, everybody? So everyone, we're excited. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Tan. We're gonna wrap. We're gonna go back and forth, talk a little bit about our tips and tricks for figuring out that self-esteem under pressure, finding that confidence, going on about our experiences getting in front of people on stage and otherwise in front of camera. And along with those tips and tricks, little nuances to set ourselves up for success. And one of the first ones I have on our list is our wardrobes and how important that is to get set up before we go out in front of anybody. Jeannie, how does your wardrobe affect you going out on stage?
Oh my God, Brice, how does it not affect? I think what I'm wearing plays into how well I'm going to perform. To be honest with you, I think that my wardrobe sets the stage for my mood, you know? And because if I dress to suit my mood, I mean, a lot of times I'd be in sweats, sometimes I'd be in colors to hide. I'm naturally an introvert, so I don't really always look forward to getting a lot of attention. But then when I look at the purpose as to why I'm going on stage or why I'm going to be on TV, then I think, okay, I want people to hear what I have to say, so I'm going to wear bold lips. Or I really want people to see that I'm here to encourage entrepreneurship and self-owned businesses. So I'm going to wear an amazing blazer from Express, you know? So I think it's really important to represent what your message is in the way that you look. And
Yeah,
you know, what
absolutely.
and I wonder for you too, because confidence it's an interesting emotion because it's fleeting, just like happiness, right? It's important to do the groundwork and to ensure that your baseline is always confident so that when you draw some self-doubt, you've got that confidence that's holding you up. So do you agree with that? And, you know, when it comes to building your internal framework for yourself, what kind of tools or tactics have you used to draw on that deeper self-confidence when you need it?
Yeah, well, what I do specifically is improvised theater and sketch. So when you look at approaching what it is, it's kind of its own art medium. It's very different from getting ready for the improv, specifically from a rehearsed play where you have all the lines. You're getting ready to jump on stage in front of however many people for a 30-minute set, hour-long set, and you're doing a theatrical show, but there's no beats. You're making it all up. There's absolutely no script. So
Sounds terrifying.
well, it's just a matter of putting the time in and figuring out the parameters to perform within. And so, you know, the empowering mantra, I think it's just reminding yourself to have fun. You know, being prepared to know things are going to derail or get weird, or maybe you'll heighten things at a different point in time. But yeah, mainly that, expecting or feeling that you're going to be having more fun than anyone else in the room, or acting like you belong there, or acting like you're going to own up to anything that happens, is essentially how I approach it. But that's just a few of my tools and tactics. Knowing that our careers rely a lot on that, you know, the confidence, getting ready to go out and get in front of people. I was so excited when I found out I would be chatting with a world-class salsa dancer. I want to know about your
You went
last
there. You really
performance.
did.
Yeah.
After 1 week.
It was incredible. So, and also along with just like knowing if how nervous you were with that, do you have dance experience prior to getting on
No,
the show?
right. No. If you look at my credentials, anybody who cares to Google Jeannie Mai, you're going to see accolades on TV in hosting where I read scripts really well and I know how to present discussions like this. But hell no to dancing. What Brice is talking about is Dancing with the Stars. I'm on season 29 and my last week performance was my first ever experience in salsa dancing period, let alone to be judged in front of America. And by the way, my entire Vietnamese family at home in the Bay Area, who are a lot harder than this entire world combined. So no, I was dying, Brice. I honestly didn't know how I pulled it together to watch that clip. When I posted it on my Instagram of me dancing, and when I look at that 1 minute clip of me dancing to the salsa, I get very emotional because I had a lot of anxiety leading up to that. And I was so embarrassed already of these scenes that I was picturing in my head, me freezing in front of America, maybe, you know, my wardrobe having a malfunction, me forgetting my moves and making my dance partner look at me like, what have we been doing for the last 20 hours the whole week? So I think what really helped me was that I centered down and meditated. I actually turned everything off and I put on a Deepak Chopra a meditation, a guided meditation for about 20 minutes before I went live on. And then I put headphones on so that even though the live show was going on and Tyra Banks was hosting and everything was going on, I kind of was in my own bubble of positivity. Because if I started watching everybody else compete, I would have gotten in my own head. So for everybody else out there, it's okay to quiet out the noise. You have a sound inside of you that sounds like a positivity, and it might be a little bit of an anxiety, but remember that anxiety can be a bit of nerves, which is normal. It doesn't have to necessarily mean anxiety that is fear. It doesn't mean that you're going to fail. So having these nervousness, this nervous feeling, or maybe butterflies, that can be really healthy, and it's okay to find ways to let that sound speak to you so that you can say, okay, you feel nervous, but you have nothing to be nervous about. You worked it out. Today you're on a talk with Brice. You've done your homework. You know what you're going to talk about. Just to remind yourself and give yourself that positive self-talk. If you don't, that's when the sounds of distractions and naysayers and, you know, really negative influences can get to you. So I think it's really important to be able to silence the noise.
I love that answer. This is just a personal one as well. I think it's one of my favorite things to find out what an artist or performer does, like just before their time on
Yeah.
stage or like getting
Yeah.
in the zone. Is that solitude moment something you do for just about everything, or is it whenever you're feeling a little bit more nervous?
I think it's when I'm a little bit more nervous. And then it makes me realize that if I practiced it more regularly, maybe I meditated not when I'm nervous, but just regularly, that would be a good exercise for me to reach out to it quickly rather than having an anxiety attack before I need to go look for it, right? It's kind of like people who pray. People sometimes only pray when they're in trouble or when they're in a near life or death experience. But why don't we pray regularly so that we just have a continuous mantra of positivity going on in our head, right? But Brice, you seem really confident too. And I'm sure that your private life is very different from your onstage persona. So I want to know, how did you learn to grow into that role and feel more comfortable being on stage?
Well, I mean, obviously practice makes perfect in anything, but how do you practice making stuff up on stage?
Right.
And it's
That
just, yeah,
sounds so scary to me. After
it's
being
just conversation. It's conversation. It's just, you know, you're a conversationalist. It's dialogue. So a large part of understanding how it works on stage is understanding relationship dynamics and people. So there is an element of studying it. You have to go to the theaters and you have to cut your teeth a bit, figuring out, you know, what do the greats do at these comedy theaters? I'm in the green rooms and on the same stages that, you know, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Steve Carell were on, and you have to like realize, you know, oh, everyone spent their time here first. And then beyond that, it was after about a year and a half in, I remember looking at the data. I love having my spreadsheets, and I kind of go over the logistics of, you know, how many castings have I been to, how many jobs have I booked, how many shows have I done.
Your auditions?
I have to. I absolutely love to.
You are such a nerd.
It's bad. It's really bad. I'll have to send them to you, and you'll
don't,
see just
please don't.
how intense I am about it. But that's how I personally measure how far along I've come. Not my success, but where I'm at compared to where I was. And I remember looking at my show spreadsheet, and when I hit 100 live performances for improv or sketches, thinking, wow, this is I'm one, proud of how many performances that is, but also I didn't think I would be this far along. I didn't think I'd be on the stages that I'm on now. And then also, you know, where I've gotten to go with it, you know, headlining college festivals and touring a bit, you know, at this point, doing a show for 200-300 people is far easier than 10 people, but
Mm.
you can't get in that zone for a larger audience to feed off that energy, or just kind of be ready to roll with the punches until you get used to doing it at the same place everyone else starts, in front of 10 people.
Good point.
And I know you're dancing in front of people, you're in front of a camera too, so we can talk those castings and auditions, but whenever you do that, obviously we're kind of exposed, and there's like some vulnerability there. How do you handle those moments? If something doesn't go according to plan, how do you recover? Or are you just so confident you're aware that you're not going to fumble?
Yeah. I have this saying that I live by, and it's own the stuff you hide before the stuff you hide owns you. And what I mean by that is everybody's got some skeletons, right? Whether it's physical, things you don't like about yourself that you just are really insecure about. Maybe you're always hiding your hips. I have a girl who wears wide baggy jeans all the time because she's always hiding her hips. Or maybe you aren't great at spelling, so you just avoid writing letters to people or avoid writing emails or whatever it is. But what that does is not only does it stunt you in your communication or your ability to go wear different fashions, but it haunts you. And if anybody were to point it out, like, hey, Brice, you misspelled a few words, you get incredibly embarrassed and you just get overwhelmed in your own anxiety about the issue. Instead, what if you just said, hey, I've got some hips that I don't know what to do with, and I'm trying to figure out how to style my hips to make myself feel more proportioned. Or, hey guys, I'm a terrible speller, so if you get emails or text messages from me where it's not speaking English, call me. But once you put it out there, not only is it what you just did, it makes you smile and you have a sense of humor about it, but it allows you to just be free when it happens and kind of roll with it, right? So for me, I definitely think that just owning it, and that's why my YouTube, my podcast, all of it is just about like the things that I'm learning to get through today. And I want to hear your thoughts on this too, Brice, because when it comes to recovering on stage, when like a joke flops or the worst case scenario happens, it's silent. What do you do?
Well, that's interesting. It's funny because I don't it's not stand up that I do, right? Whenever you kind of polish off your tight set, and you formulate this idea of what you have as a joke, and then you deliver it, and then there's an expectation, right?
Yeah.
People sit in the audience and they go see a stand up and they go, all right, you make me laugh. I get the benefit of being an improviser, where I go on stage and people take their seats and they go, oh, great, I'm going to laugh. And this is the most important bit of advice that I could give, period, regarding confidence or self-esteem. And it's largely in part with improvising or doing a show on stage. And that's, we invite failure as a part of the process. If you're not willing to fail, you can assume it's not going to be a funny show. Nothing good is going to come from it. It's those moments of discovery that don't just make say an improvised show funny, but that sitting in your living room with your friends, that's the hardest times you laugh, is whenever you're in a circle with people that are close to you, and you weren't expecting the conversation to go that way, or funny things come up. But you're not afraid of failing anything whenever you're hanging out with your friends in your living room, and you need to carry that same approach whether you are doing something that's maybe
Right.
a little more in the public eye, or
Yeah.
even in your professional life or business.
Yeah, that's so interesting because as someone who makes people laugh for a living, you've certainly witnessed the power of humor firsthand. So, how often do you look to be funny in your day? Like, do you try to look forward to being funny to turn a bad day around? Or how do you use humor to kind of inspire your happiness when you're not feeling it that day?
I was filming something last week, and we did the scripted material. And after that, I got to do something that we often refer to as a fun run. And it's when you take the same words that were scripted for us, but the fun run is your version. So I could use the words if I wanted, but I could also just use my own. And and I get to do that oftentimes. For whatever reason, they let the comedic actors do that pretty frequently, and I just think that's the most fun I get to have ever, telling a story, but or seeing a story and getting to edit it in my own way. How does that, how would I do that if that was real?
Mm,
And then I think about that when the day goes sour. If the day is bad, we can't always manage the cards that are dealt us, or in this example, a script, but you can certainly choose how you deliver the lines, or you can choose to have your fun run with it. So
Agreed.
that's definitely how I approach a bad day whenever I'm thinking about, the highs versus the lows.
Yeah.
But you yourself, you have a lot going on too. You've got your accolades, daytime Emmy nominations, outstanding talk series, outstanding talk show host, and an NAACP Image Award for outstanding talk series. You're on top. So how do you handle the pressure, the expectations? Does being the best ever cause any speed bumps for you?
Well, the first thing I would do is not to see it as me being on top for me. I think it's so cool when people might see it that way. But for me, like, I'm a girl that came from the Bay Area. I hustle every single day and I'm constantly attacking that list of goals that I have. And it's not about success or in the wealth sense, but it's in the sense of constantly being challenged and to achieve. If I feel myself repeating the same mistakes or kind of chasing the same jobs, then I'm not actually achieving anything. So I've got to reroute myself. And it's okay to change your goal plan too. So for me, it's competing against myself. I can't be doing the same thing I did last year, and I can't be looking at the same type of goals as I did last year. I should be upping those goals to the next echelon, with my own strides. So yeah, and I also want to say, like, it's important, especially in this world of social media where we live in a place where everybody can comment and make an Instagram handle. I think it's important not to take criticism from people that you wouldn't take advice from. It's weird that we'll read comments from people and all of a sudden get hurt by it and sit there for an hour in our poopy feelings. But really, who is this fool? Who is this person who has the time to sit there and talk about your craft or your looks or whatever? So I think it's very important to remember who it is you're taking criticism from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a huge part of performing with confidence or doing anything with confidence, right, is preparation. So when you, Brice, have prepped and planned and prepared so that you can go to stage with total confidence to make your show a success, what do you do to prep? Why is it key to your success? How can others who are listening to this right now take a similar approach to preparing for an important meeting or a promotion or maybe even a date?
Yeah, it's what you have coming up, right? So, we're talking primarily about the improvised theater I do, and then also the sketch shows. A sketch show is going to be similar to SNL, where there's scripted material and there's certain beats that you plan to hit, and you know what's coming. In that case, binders. I have stacks of binders from all the shows where I've just done diligent work in the margins. I have tons of notes. I know exactly what I'm going to do here or there, so I can be prepared for anything else to come up.
Wow.
But when it comes to an improvised show where you don't really have any plan of what's going to happen, thematically, what it may look like, the key is to be warm. And that's some pretty big life advice as well, I would say. Getting on the same wavelength as other improvisers, we do a lot of warm-ups prior to stepping out on stage, to not only be loose and comfortable just in your body and how you're speaking, but to be on the same wavelength as others. I mean, it's super important before you go into maybe a large business meeting to just maybe be on the same wavelength as people that you're presenting with, or if you're going on that date, finding those connections and then just riding that wave. That's such a large part of what we do whenever we're fabricating an entire show out of nothing. So we have to be at this at least base level of understanding with each other that says, I've got your back, you've got mine, we're doing this together. And even if, we do fumble or we slip up, we've got another 30 minutes on stage together. So we should assume or hope to keep taking care of one another.
Agreed.
There's a quote that I had marked whenever I was getting ready for our chat. And it is, you cannot make an omelet without cracking a few eggs. What
true.
advice do you have? I agree. I say that every other time I have a show.
Goes back to what you said about failing.
Yeah, totally. It's a big part of it. So, that said, what would you give advice wise to an audience today if they're looking for confidence to express themselves, if they want to pursue a dream that might seem like something they previously wouldn't have ever gone for?
You got to remember that the one who falls and gets back up again is always going to be stronger than the one who never fell. When you look at the greatest people who have achieved great things like John Lewis and, Martin Luther King and, um, inventors and just scientists and big entrepreneurs that are of major wealth or whatever it may be that you admire. I dare you to show me somebody who really just kind of was birthed into that situation and had no setbacks. Most of the greatest have been through bankruptcy, have been through divorces, have been through maybe physical or mental setbacks, even Ariana Huffington, somebody I really admire who created the Huffington Post, went through a severe depression and a divorce before she launched her business and eventually sold it. So it's important to remember that all those times that you've fallen are the greatest parts of your character and your integrity and your resilience. So embrace those moments, and in a sick kind of way, look forward to them, because the you coming out of it is so much better than the one going in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I always also try to remember that it's nerves and excitement, they come from the same part of your brain. So when you're nervous, you can actually trick yourself into feeling excited. What I was talking about earlier with anxiety, I had to trick myself that Monday night for the live show that my nerves were not that I was going to fail. My nerves are good. You should be nervous because this is something you really worked hard for. So can you explain how you use nerves in a positive way to harness performing your best on stage?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like you said, nerves are a good thing. If you're not nervous, you probably don't care enough. And there's someone else in line who cares maybe twice as much. So nerves are very natural. And obviously they come up whenever you're trying to evoke emotion from somebody, which is just innately comedy. I think back to mentioning failing and making mistakes. And sometimes it feels like when the nerves pile up too much, you're going to mess up big. And I do think of one show I was doing where I had a line, and I was particularly nervous because this one was opening night, and it was more of an awkward, it was an awkward scene, but I had this one line, and the delivery, the phrasing of it was weird, and I just forgot it. But I found in that beat that people, it was a big laugh because I forgot the line. But people continued to laugh. You could drive a bus through the length of the beat I took to deliver it. And whenever I did find it, I kind of like mumbled it out, like, man, this was an awkward moment. And we kept that delivery for the remainder of the run of shows because it was just something we kind of found, even though I was anxious and nervous and like didn't do my best, it turned out being far better than it initially was scripted. So yeah, that was a really fun experience. It was kind of a coming to terms situation too, with realizing, oh, messing up is good. Finding it along the way is good. And yeah, I was excited about it. And I was excited about this chat too. And I don't want it to end, but we are getting close to our time. So I have one more question marked, and it's the fake it till you make it philosophy. Obviously, you've done some big things. Dancing with the Stars is so awesome. Tell me about your experiences. Do you think faking it until you making it is applicable to everyone?
No, I think fake it till you make it is so BS. It's terrible because then you're posing to be this thing that when it all comes crumbling down, or you put too much pressure on yourself to continue this lie, it's going to slap you in the face sometime. So for me to get to where I have been, I would say I faced it till I made it. I just faced it head on. Plow through the anxiety, plow through the, not pretending to be who I'm not, and instead just being Jeannie Mai. And, that kind of builds my brand. I'm now known to be Jeannie Mai. So if I'm on a talk show, I'm giving my opinion as Jeannie Mai. If I'm hosting a podcast, it's my experience as Jeannie Mai. I'm not playing any other person, and I don't have to put on a fake smile when I really don't feel like it. If I'm depressed or if I'm upset, my fans know that I'm going to tell them first and foremost. So I think face it till you make it is a much healthier way to live your life. And what would you recommend, Brice? Because do you think the fake it till you make it works? Have you kind of gone through that yourself?
Right. I think that's a hot take, and I agree with your sentiment. I think people should chase the dream that wants to chase them. Find what works for you. Where do you thrive? Everyone starts somewhere. So if you feel like you need to discover that, experiment with everything. Become a hobbyist, whether it's a comedy or dramatic acting or singing or anything that maybe is less artistic. You can find your gifts anywhere. Um, Specifically, I'm not a classically trained actor. I don't have a bachelor or a master's in fine arts. I kind of fumbled into all of it. But once I found it, I took it very seriously. And I studied across some of the most major comedy theaters in Chicago and performed pretty consistently. So I found it, and then I put my nose to the grindstone and worked very hard.
Mm.
This has been a blast, but we have some rapid fire questions before we go. We're super short
Let's
on
do
time,
it.
so let's see if we can do it quick. When you're creatively blocked, you do what?
Eat. I eat.
Eat?
That's
I
amazing.
like to, yeah? What's your favorite dish?
Oh, hot Cheetos. It's not that deep, Brice. What about you? What do you do?
Uh, well, gosh, Flamin' Hots are up there for me, but I like to go for a run. I think that clears my head a little better than anything else. You
Healthier,
think
better.
humor is an antidote to what?
Life. Your entire life.
Wow, we see. It's like we warmed up. We're on the same wavelength. I would say stress. I think whenever you
Mm.
feel like life is heavy, you got to have a laugh. And then the secret to being bold is
To dress like you ready to make some shmoney.
okay. Yeah, hell yeah. I think stepping out of your comfort zone. I think that's the move, and that could be dressing like you're ready to make some money.
Brice, that was so much fun. Thank you. I love speaking with you.
Yeah, yeah. What a pleasure. Thank you so much, and good luck with your next performance.
Thank you. It's Tuesday, so don't forget to watch and vote.
I'll be watching.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brice and Jeannie. Jeannie, good luck with your next performance. I hope you do incredibly well. Vote for her, please. Let's keep her on. I don't know about you guys at home, but I'm definitely feeling very much self-assured and a lot more fearless after their conversation. Thank you both.